Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Richest Men in Town podcast. I'm Mike Freeman, and along with my good friend and co-host Tyler Gould, we're excited to welcome you to our little podcast project. Tyler and I are just a couple of middle-aged husbands and dads driven to live our best lives. We want to be better every day, so here we'll be sitting down with great people. Not famous people, but great people that we admire, to learn their secret to living the rich life. Probably not the rich life you're thinking of. Our guests come in humbled and surprised at the invitation and hopefully leave feeling proud and grateful, realizing just how good they really have it. So pull up a chair, stay a while, and raise a glass with us as we toast our guests to the richest men in town. All right, Tyler Gould, I think I say this every week, but unbelievable night on the Richest Men in Town podcast.
Yeah, what a night, man. We had your friend Derick Anderson on the show tonight, and I am grateful to you for introducing me to Derick Anderson. This guy is something else, man.
No, I mean,
he said tonight at one point, Mike, he said, my experience on the Richest Men in Town has been the cat's pajamas. And I would say to you, Derick Anderson is the cat's pajamas.
I would say I've never seen cats wearing pajamas. I thought it was the cat's meow, but you know what? I'll take it. I'll take that compliment. Right? I'll take that compliment. Man. But we go places.
Yeah.
We go places where weak things are made strong.
Yeah.
Right. But we spend some time in that process. And this guy, you want to talk about a masterclass in honoring people?
Oh
man. Hey, Derick Anderson, you got anybody you want to honor? And it just rolls out names, right? Like he's got a personal Hall of Fame, like a Mount Rushmore with, 10, 20 faces on it. This is beautiful, beautiful moment.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot to be learned from Derick Anderson's journey that he shared with us tonight. And one of the things,
let's say the work, right? The work.
Yeah, the work, the word process, the word journey, those were used multiple times. And one of the things that he shared that I absolutely love is he said, there's a way out of it if you seek it. And man, I absolutely love that. And what I love about it is it's not just words, right? Because Derick Anderson explains how in his life, he found ways out of things because he was seeking things. Mm-hmm. And I absolutely loved it, man. It was great.
Well, and you can turn and face it, or you can run and try to escape from it, but you can run and you can sweat and you turn around and you've gone no farther away.
Yeah, it's still there, man.
It's still there.
Yeah.
Still there facing you, and you have that opportunity. What did he say? To take account of yourself.
Yeah.
To take account coming from, I got to keep my powder dry, but he has some experiences where God talks to him through people in his life.
And there are people that are unexpected as well, and I think it's amazing.
And it's a place where he's never the same.
Yeah.
He's never the same because he heeds those things and he makes some changes.
Yeah, absolutely. He is not who he once was. And boy, are we better for being around a guy that has embraced change and continues to seek it, man. I love it.
Yeah. And to our guests, he does, or to our listeners, he talks about applying, right? Taking those things that life are teaching us and applying them so that tomorrow we might be the best version of ourselves.
Love that, man. I absolutely love it.
There's a lot to love. There's a lot to love, from the barbershop to the senior citizen garden.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in the life of Derick Anderson and the path that he's been on. So, you know what? Game recognizes game. I knew there was something to this guy by how he conducts himself, by the energy and the people that he attracts into his life. And Derick Anderson did not disappoint. So I got notes. You got notes. We got work to do. To Derick, thank you for the way he showed up. There's vulnerability, and then there's what he does tonight.
Yeah.
Right. Man. He takes it to some places, and in those places, is where we find him to be the most powerful as a teacher.
Yeah.
As a teacher, for us to learn those lessons, apply those lessons so that we might be better. So Tyler Gould, this thing makes me better every week. Appreciate you. Appreciate your time. To Derick Anderson and his crew, thank you so much for being a guest on the Richest Men in Town. To our listeners, we hope you love this episode featuring our friend Derick Anderson on the Richest Men in Town.
So what's going on with you, man? What's on your mind tonight?
Well, let's get this out of the way, right?
Yeah.
237.3.
Hey, dude. That's almost what is that? That's almost 3 complete pounds.
So let me tell you something.
Yeah.
I've actually invested.
Okay.
So this episode is brought to you by the Fit Father Project. I don't know if you've heard of this.
I have heard of this. Yes.
You probably saw it on your Facebook.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like all over social media. Yeah.
Boom. Well, it worked. It sucked me in. So they got my $97.
Okay.
With it has come a nutrition plan that I'm straight up stiff arming right now, but keeping that a little bit away. But so there's a nutrition, there's a fitness component to it. And so the other night I watched the fitness component because I'm going to the gym, but the gym is straight up, I'm going to keep a streak going. I might be on a treadmill going a couple miles, jump on a bike the next morning, shoot some hoop the next morning. There's no rhyme or reason to what I'm doing. I'm just trying to move my body and sweat. Yeah. Which isn't hard when you're chubs, right? So this guy gives me a workout plan called the Apex 10.
Okay. That sounds amazing. Apex, dude. I mean,
well, by Apex, what he's saying is he's going to give you 5 exercises.
Okay.
You do one of each exercise.
Yeah.
Then you go up to 2 of each exercise.
Okay.
3, 4, up to 10.
10 of each exercise.
And then down.
Then you get back down to 1.
And you're just chilling. 5 exercises, right?
I love it, man. That sounds good.
So the 5 exercises, I'm doing weights with a swing. And then I'm doing squats with that same weight. And then I'm doing shoulder raises with the weight. And then I'm dropping down and doing these diabolical things called a row.
Okay.
Where you're in a push-up position and you've got weights.
Yeah.
You're in a push-up position and you're lifting one of the arms like you're starting a lawnmower. Man.
I like it, man.
Okay, 1. I got that. 1. No problem. 1 of each. Okay. Got it. 2 of each. Okay. Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
3 of each. It's like, oh, all right.
Hurting. Yeah. I love it, man. I'm excited.
We did not complete the Apex 10 this morning.
Well, hey, you know what? As long as you got a streak going and you see the needle moving, things are good, man.
Yeah. Just trying to get out of my own way. Right? Run the program. Set the program, run the program.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I agree, man. I've been talking about alignment lately. That for me is part of it for me. Like I've been down, I'm down 8.5 and I'm feeling good about it and just got to keep it rolling,
Yeah.
Keep it working, man.
And Grace's letter is done.
Man. Things are moving over in the Freeman house.
So here's the next undone.
Yeah. Ready? What's the next undone?
I have 2 people that I know.
Yeah.
That have had the "you're lucky to be alive" conversation with their doctors recently.
Yeah.
And that has prompted me to at least jot down on a couple of to-do lists to reach out to my life insurance agent.
Yeah, maybe you should reach out to your doctor too, just to.
Well, guess what? Those 2 are going to be connected, right?
Okay, good.
Because you're going to want to increase your life insurance, and the life insurance agent's going to be like, "Yeah, that sounds good. Let's get you an annual physical."
You're gonna find out. Yeah, that's good. That's all good. I like
But
it.
you made that face just now, man. You just made that face where, as a 45-year-old, that idea of an annual physical takes on a little something else.
Yeah, at 25, the physical is like whatever, dude. When you're done, I got to go get a in and out. You know what I mean? but
And
now it's
now,
like
as a 46-year-old, it's going to be,
Yeah.
I got to go take a 30-minute shower.
yeah, I haven't had in and out in like I don't even know, dude. Like so long.
Do you dream about it?
Sometimes because my kids will go and they bring it home and they eat it in front of me, and I just I watch. It's my new role.
I almost went to blows today. You know what happened?
What happened?
I'm in a room full of superintendents, and the guy next to me, we take a break, and the guy next to me pulls out a glazed twist donut.
I do like a good glazed twist, man.
And starts eating it right in front of me.
Yeah, that's rough, man.
And I'm on the mic, right? And I'm doing a training with these guys. I'm like, really? Like, you're just gonna do that right in front of me, right? I mean, isn't the rule in kindergarten like bring enough for everyone?
That is a good rule. That is,
I think that's a good rule to live by.
I agree.
Like, ain't no fun if the homies don't get none. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to have a glazed twist and you only got one, you eat that thing in your car, before the meeting starts, you put that thing down.
You don't pull that up in front of Mike Freeman, whose dream job is to run a donut shop.
That's a good gig. I think, I don't know. I mean, I remember those commercials, that dude getting up early in the morning, time to make the donuts guy. You remember those commercials? Yeah. So that seems like awfully early.
But the life insurance agent doesn't even talk to the guy who owns a donut shop.
No, right? but the doctor loves the guy that owns a donut shop because he's just banking cash off of that dude.
Yeah, so the next undone thing, I'm going to proclaim it to our universe out here.
Okay.
If I could say it in German, I would. But
okay, wow.
The next thing is I'm going to call my life insurance agent, and I'm going to talk to him about increasing my life insurance.
Increasing life insurance.
And by default, that's probably going to land me in a annual physical. So.
Well, I think it's a good thing. But I think the even better thing is that you are increasing your life by your diet and exercise. That's good, man. I'm excited.
Exercise. I'm working on the diet.
Okay. Well, you
can't outrun the fork.
No. Well, you can't. No. I'm a bachelor for the next week. And you know what I would normally do when I'm batching it?
Tricks.
It would just be like Cocoa Pebbles and pizzas and In-N-Outs, and I have literally had
none of that.
Nothing. Like nothing. I got water, and I had some blackberries today when I got home.
Ooh.
That's where we're at, man. But hey, it's good. I
think there are homeless people here in Reading that have had more to eat than you have today.
Maybe. Yeah, that's a sad commentary.
Right? I mean, were you just on the side of the road and you saw a blackberry patch and picked a few blackberries?
Yeah, in San Diego, those are harder to come by than they are in Reading. Reading, those are all over the place, man. I mean, when I lived there, we had the constant battle with the blackberry bushes. But
blackberries and beavers.
Yeah, those were the two fights that were forever happening, man.
You've never told that story.
It doesn't go over well with the PETA crowd. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I don't know if the richest men in town audience is ready for that.
I don't know either. Maybe that was like that wouldn't have been considered some of my richest days. I don't know.
We have peaks and valleys in this life.
That's right. That's right.
Perhaps that was a valley.
It could have been. It could very well have been. I remember a moment in that time that I felt like I was in a deep valley. That's for sure.
We'll leave it at that. Leave it at that.
There, man.
The people will never know.
Never know, man.
But those kids that saw stuff go down.
Yeah, there's a group of newly graduated seniors that are still scarred. from that. But
there's nothing worse than laughing at a joke that nobody's heard.
yeah, exactly.
Good
right.
times.
Moving on.
Hey, can we talk about tonight?
Yeah, let's do it.
Tonight's gonna be some amazing stuff because last night's pre-show was pretty electric. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a good time. I'm excited.
I've got a friend. After tonight, he's going to be one of your best friends. I'm telling you, Tyler. So Derick Anderson is joining us tonight.
Yeah.
Derick Anderson is a dude that when you're around, you want to be better. And when you got a show called Richest Men in Town, actually, when you're thinking about a show called Richest Men in Town, it's because of people in your life like Derick Anderson. So I'm excited to get to know him a little bit because here's the thing. I know his impact. I know how I feel when I'm around him. Yeah. I don't know how he got there.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the fun. You know what I mean?
That is the fun, right? I mean, hopefully not hopefully. There's going to be some things that are going to be taught tonight. I can tell you that just from our pre-show call. So
yeah.
I'm excited to meet Derick Anderson, and I'm just grateful that he's crossed your path so that he can end up here. This is exciting.
Anything moving in you before I just let this guy in?
I think we just need to kick the doors open. We need to let Derick in here and just let the learning begin. You know what I mean?
Let the learning begin. Sharpen your pencil, boys and girls. Mr. Anderson is in the Richest Men in Town house, and he's going to teach us a few things.
Yeah. I'm excited, man.
Derick Anderson, welcome to the Richest Men in Town. How are you?
Well, sir, how are you?
Good. I don't know if you heard me refer to you as Mr. Anderson, and I don't know if you're looking around for like your dad or something. Are you okay being referred to as Mr. Anderson, at least formally, as we get this party started?
It doesn't make me too uncomfortable, so yeah, we can go with that.
Okay. Well, welcome, man. Welcome. I'm excited to have some time with you. We were in the pre-show and we were talking a little bit about some of the feelings that we got in last night's pre-show with you, and looking forward to spending a little more time and figuring out how you became the guy that I know.
Good. I'm glad to be here tonight. Again, much appreciated the invitation. It's an honor, to be a part of this. So thanks.
So you didn't really miss too much on the entry. I'm just being vulnerable where I actually am coming to Tyler and this forum every week with something that is undone in my life, with the commitment that I'm going to announce it, I'm going to manifest it out there, and then I'm going to do what I can to get it done. Right. So the thing that I just threw out there was I've got a couple of folks that I know that have recently had conversations with medical professionals that went something like, you're lucky to be alive. And so that's got me thinking, number one, I'm lucky to be alive. And then number two, maybe I should check in with a doctor and get an annual physical and increase my life insurance just in case. So I'm going to reach out to my life insurance agent. I'm going to increase my life insurance, and then he's probably going to make me go to the doctor. So that's my undone that will be done by the next time Tyler and I get together.
That's a doozy, man. And that's a short window. You got a week to get that thing done, man.
I kind of like it though. I kind of like putting me out there. Like, okay, now it's out there. You gotta get it done before you face the music with Tyler again.
And at the same time, be careful what you wish for. I just went through that same type of undone experience a few months back, and it's led to some devices in my life.
Oh man.
I was so my trip was spurred on by my wife. And after I returned,
okay, hold on. What's your wife's name?
Robin.
Robin, okay.
Yeah, and now I tell her I was perfectly fine until you made me go to the doctor.
They're good for that, right? They're good for that. I was perfectly fine until you made me fill in the blank.
Absolutely.
They're in tune though, right? They're in tune.
Well, I think a lot of the times we wouldn't be half the guys that we are if it weren't for them.
Yeah. That's the truth. That's the truth.
Because I know she keeps she keeps our lives dialed in and guided in so many ways. And I've recently had the opportunity to think about these things being laid up at the beginning of this process, that with the crutches there, to think about really how much she truly does to keep us all together and going in virtually every facet of our lives, without her, the wheels kind of fall off.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because Tyler right now is batching it without Ricky, right? Without his wife. And I'm worried for his safety. I'm
for
worried
my well-being.
Right. It's almost like I need to call the
wellness
Chula
check?
Vista Police Department and do a wellness check.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I got a buddy. Can you just swing by and make sure he's doing okay?
Yeah,
Make sure he's okay.
He's not buried under pizza boxes and Yeah, definitely.
But Derick, you bring up a great point, man. When they're not in our lives, those wheels can at least start to wobble quite a bit.
For sure.
All right.
Not good.
I want to share something with you guys that I read the other day, and I want to get your feedback on it. All right. So this comes from one of my favorite things, and we've talked about this before on the show, the Monk Manual. Okay. And so I want to read this to you. It says, when we see a crack in the wall of our home, our first reaction may be to patch it up. Something similar happens in our life. When a problem springs up in a relationship, our finances, our spiritual life, our parenting, etc., we do our best to fix the crack, but often after a period of time, the problem reappears. This is because our surface level problems tend to be rooted in deeper problems hidden from our view. We miss that the crack in the wall that keeps showing up isn't a wall problem. It's a problem with the foundation. Your personal foundation is composed of things like your mindset, your beliefs, your stories about the world, and your stories about yourself. If you want to make meaningful change in your life, focus on fixing your foundation, not the crack in the wall. So I got that the other day, right? I get a text. I signed up for this text to remind me to spur me to do some stuff. And it just made me think, right? As we, just taking sort of inventory of my own life and those issues that do creep up, over time. What am I doing to address those issues? And am I just patching the wall and not fixing the foundation? What are your thoughts on that, Mike and Derick?
Well, I'm curious to know what Derick thinks about that.
I think we spend a lot of our time just unintentionally through process fixing the cracks, because we consider ourselves to be so busy. So we don't take the time to look at the true problems, whatever the issue might be. And of course you do that. And over time, those little hides that you make by fixing the cracks become major issues, whether it's emotional, financial, relational, whatever. And it's best to probably just dig to the root of these problems and these issues as early as possible to help eliminate catastrophes down the line. And I don't think that a lot of us are equipped to do that really much anymore.
Yeah.
I love that point, Derick, because that was exactly where my mind went, is that quick fix. We do that because it's quick, right? Right. It doesn't take a lot of effort, but what it does is it actually distances ourselves from the true solution. And in that distance, things actually get worse.
Most definitely.
Right. So your crack, you come by and it's like, hey, let's patch that up. Well, the next time around, not only are you quick fix and kind of solutionitis, but you're not noticing that the crack is actually bigger every time you have to repair it. Right. You're just so busy running to and from that you're not even taking the time to realize. And you might say to yourself as you're mid repair, like, yeah, I really need to take a look at this. And then it's on to the next thing. Right.
But here's the question. I mean, when we see the cracks, right? When we call them what we want to call them, right? We make mistakes or we see the cracks, whatever it is. Are we just addressing the crack because we don't want to face the foundation issue? Or are we addressing the crack because that's what we think the real problem is? And I ask the question because I find myself in both spots, right? I'll fix the crack because I think, yeah, I got this. But I think if I really took a step back, and there's times where I fix the crack and I know there's something more, right? But I don't want to do it, and maybe I don't want to be honest with myself, or I don't want to be honest with someone else, whatever that is. But what's the process?
And I think when it repeats, and
it's hard to fix those problems in a vacuum, right? I mean, and Derick, we talked about this last night a little bit about this idea of vulnerability and this idea of, we talked about it taking a village, right? To help us, not just our kids, but help us as adults get where we want to be. And when I read this, as I reread this after our conversation last night, I thought, gosh, how much easier would it be for us to address the cracks in the foundation in our lives if we were more willing to have honest conversations with people that we know love us, respect us, and want us to be the best version of ourselves, right? Because I think sometimes for myself, right, sometimes it's a pride issue. It's like, well, I screwed up, but I can fix this myself, and I'm just going to put my nose to the grindstone and work through it and get to the other side, and everything's going to be fine. But if I could have that honest conversation with a person like Mike Freeman or Derick Anderson and get honest feedback, I think that's where we really start to get down to the foundation, right?
I'd like to think so. Because if you're not getting to the root of your emotional process, no matter what the situation is, no matter what the circumstances you're facing, it makes it kind of hard to really fix anything else, repair. We're just doing cosmetic work again until we get to those foundational issues. And when you have the ability to have those conversations with people, I don't think you can go wrong building a foundation off of truth and honesty and transparency,
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think too, somewhere in that process, you got to insert some expertise, right?
Absolutely.
Like there's some times when I have cracks in my life, it's straight up looking at me in the face like, Mike, that's representing something that you don't know. Like there's something there to be learned, right? Like if it's financial, if it's relationships, if it's whatever it might be, it's like that might be representing something that you got to learn.
What's
and that's going beyond that crack, acknowledging that this is the issue that I'm faced with. I don't know how to overcome it, so I need to seek from some source answers to rectify the problem.
I like that a lot.
Otherwise, it's a bunch of baling wire and duct tape, right?
Well, but isn't that? I feel like that's sort of how. I don't want to, maybe that's how, as a society as a whole, that's what we're doing, right? We kind of march through and we're just patching stuff up, and I don't know. I mean, I think that there's a process, and I like what you said, Derick, that, if we build our foundation on truth and honesty and transparency, then it's hard to go wrong with that, right? I mean, we're afraid sometimes to expose the warts, but I think when we let people in on some of those things that we may be dealing with, you've got that third party that can be like, oh yeah, I've been there.
And if we stop to think about it, we're all going through the same issues in different ways, in different times in our lives, during different periods or phases. But the issues are all the same. So why are we so afraid of talking about things that we're all experiencing?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there's anything more vulnerable than going to somebody and saying, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Like,
sometimes
you know
that's the
something.
hardest thing for someone to do also.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
100%.
For various reasons, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if you're like, I always think of vulnerability like I'm going into a mechanic shop, right? And I feel super vulnerable because my car is doing this thing, and all I'm doing is all I know how to do is open up the oil thing and keep pouring in oil. Right?
When you're standing at the counter making the noise that your car makes,
Right.
yeah, that's a tough spot to be in, man.
And then you're just hoping that the guy's honest because he sees
Right.
he's got you right where he wants you, right? But I think that there's so many times where it's like we front like, oh no, we got to know.
Yeah.
We got to know how to communicate with our wife. We got to know how to, to parent our kids. And sometimes maybe to really get to the root cause of that problem, we go to someone else. Because here's the thing. Instantly, I think you know what you don't know. And then you probably know somebody who does.
Yeah.
Right? You can go to somebody and be like, man, I can go. And I think that's the genesis of this project, Tyler. It was like, let's connect. Clearly, we're seeing people out there that are doing some amazing things with life. Let's get them in a chair and just say, hey, talk to me about this, right? Yeah. Talk to me about that.
It's like the old barbershop conversations.
Barbershop.
That's
Let's
it.
go.
Yeah.
Like everything goes for men in the barbershop. We need to have barbershops in our homes, at the dining room table, at work.
Yeah.
We need to have those barbershop conversations.
And Derick, when you're going into the barbershop, you're intentional about like conversations are going to happen in a barbershop.
Yeah.
We've talked about that, Tyler, like conversion doesn't happen by accident. I'm thinking of Brian Beasley. If you're not planning intentional conversations with your kids, you're missing opportunities to have an impact on them.
Well, and I think, and that's a great point. And I think that if we are thinking, I want to have powerful conversations with my children or my spouse, and yet we're not taking care of our own cracks in the foundation, right? How does that translate, right?
But what if we've
got to be willing to have those conversations with those people that can have an influence on us, so that we can get our stuff right and have those conversations be more powerful with
it's kind of like a beam in a moat, right? Like the idea is like, what if I was just walking around trying to find the answer to the crack I've discovered in my life?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm walking around like trying to learn the thing that's going to solve that once and be done. That would be a different world, right? I think we're really good at walking around. It's like, whoa, bro, you got some problems. Right. But we're not even.
You better fix that, man.
You better fix that. Let me tell you. Oh, I can tell you all about how to fix that. And like, we're over here like, just throw some spackle on that. We're good.
Yeah, that's right. No, I like that. I agree. I think that there's, and look, I mean, Derick, no pressure, but that's why you're here tonight, man.
Well, thanks again for the invitation.
That whole situation reminds me of, I probably shared this with you, Tyler, but so I've been in my house 14, 15 years, right? When we first moved in, we had a friend swing by and we have a Japanese maple right out in front, right by the house. And so we moved in, the house was new, the tree was little. And he looked at us and was like, man, that Japanese maple is pretty close to the foundation. That root structure is pretty invasive. That might be a problem 10, 12 years down the road. I'm like, 10, 12 years down the road, bro, I'm on to the next house. Don't worry.
That's someone else's problem, man.
And now I'm thinking maybe that's why I'm getting cracks in the wall.
See, everyone needs an arborist in their life, man. I mean, this is
sure. That's the thing, we all need each other. We're supposed to be taking this journey together.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or indifferent.
And somewhere there's a conductor, right?
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
What if the thing that you need is probably around you?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have eyes to look around, maybe we're complementary pieces, right? Maybe what the husband's good at, the wife isn't, what the wife isn't good at, or what the wife excels at, the husband is a wreck at. Or maybe wives excel at everything and husbands are just projects, right? I don't know.
I think it's probably more of the latter.
Yeah, it might be.
That's why my wife's on vacation without me. You know what I mean?
Tyler, can I tell you a little bit about my background with Mr. Anderson here?
Yes, please.
Okay. So not to blow sunshine at you, Derick Anderson, but I've had the opportunity to know this man as a parent. So we've had the opportunity to work together. I was a principal of his kid's school, and every time I got together with this guy, I would walk away thinking, that guy's got something, right? And I don't know, Derick, you may hear this stuff all the time. I don't know, but there is something about the way Derick's living his life that is admirable. And when I have an opportunity to get to know how that life happened, done, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So Derick, thank you for accepting the invitation. I'm looking forward to how this life came to happen. Right?
Okay, so now that's high praise, Derick. And I'll tell you, I met you for 10 or 15 minutes the other night, and I'm tending to agree with Mike just in those 10 or 15 minutes. But what were your thoughts, Derick, when Mike Freeman approaches you and says, "Hey, I've got this podcast called The Richest Men in Town, and I think that you're perfect candidate to come on and share some thoughts."
Holy, and we'll leave it at that. How about that? Yeah, I was really, honestly, genuinely shocked and surprised and overjoyed and grateful and scared and all kinds of things. But it was definitely an honor to receive the invitation.
Well, I can tell you, that when Mike comes to me and says, "Hey, I know this guy, Derick Anderson, you got to know him too." For me, that lights up my screen, man. I gotta start. I was chomping at the bit to get to know you, so I'm excited you're here tonight, and I'm excited to kind of spend some time talking about your life, Derick, and what's what your experiences are and the journey that you've been on that has brought you to the place that you are in your life. And obviously, this journey's ongoing, but we're excited to learn from you tonight.
So Derick, let's jump in with the people. Let's jump in with the people that fill your life with joy. You've introduced us now to your wife Robin. What's the family look like? Give me the breakdown. So
there's 6 kids, 3 boys, 3 girls from 15 to 34. That's a show in and of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I kind of migrated to Redding about 25 years ago, so I don't have bio family here in the area, but originate from Southern California, from down in Ventura County, born and raised. And that's where, a couple of siblings are. Got a brother and a sister there. My youngest sister's in Michigan. I'm the oldest of 4. My mom still resides in SoCal. We just lost my dad. We were down for a family reunion in July. And actually, he just passed 2 days after that ended.
Oh, wow.
But, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, that's home down in Ventura County. And, just the multitude of family and friends that we've made in the time that we've been here, during our different involvement in different arenas, whether it's church or schools or sports activities with the kids,
Let's get into this, Tyler.
Yeah, I'm curious, Derick. Can you talk a little bit about kind of family life growing up, the dynamic with your siblings and maybe the influence of mom and dad in your life?
Well, it was so many things. There was a lot of good and bad. My parents were young when I was born. 19, 16. My dad was on scholarship at University of Oklahoma playing football. Came home, changed the course of action, having a family to take care of. Joined the service in the Army. Ended up in Vietnam. Again, that has its own side story. But for me personally, that led to, after having spent the first few formative years in my grandparents' home, my maternal grandparents' home with my mom, because of my dad's military commitment, and that being as ideal as it could possibly be at the time, and then doing a total 180 in my whole life perspective, function, and everything once my dad returned home, and that led to long-term physical abuse between he and I. And of course that led to other issues, in every avenue of my life. But there were just as many good times too. My parents worked very hard to provide for us. I think the things that I went through physically with my dad saved my brother and sisters from having to cope with that. It was more emotional for them, dealing with all the chaos and craziness.
Derick, do you think that had anything to do with his military service?
Absolutely. There were, before my dad went into the service, he was beloved by everyone, like so many other people. After whatever it is that they experienced, told or untold, when they returned, they were different people, different men and women, and that's understandable, But at the same time, we all know right from wrong, and as a kid, I had to balance, the primary male adult figure in my life, with being dad and him trying to teach right from wrong and not showing necessarily right from wrong, but he had a very battled childhood himself, street kid, shoe shining, selling peanuts, that kind of stuff, born down in LA. And so, of course, when you learn wrong, you have a tendency to teach wrong, and that creates chaos in a lot of areas of any person's life. But we made it through it.
I'm curious, Derick, you talk about the early years, your dad coming back from Vietnam and sort of that experience with him that you had as a young boy. As throughout your dad's life, what is the evolution of your relationship with your dad? Does that evolve over time? How does that change over the years?
It ebbs and it tides through the years.
Yeah.
And thank God, and with his passing, that we were at a point in our relationship that between he and I, we were riding a crest.
Yeah.
We're at a very high point for us, and I'm thankful for that. But yeah, there were a lot of ups and downs. I used to battle with God. I used to cuss God. I used to shout at him. I used to pray to him to just take him in the middle of the night. Just take him out of our lives. And as I got older, and I understood somewhat more the struggles from his perspective and the reasoning behind why he did some of the things that he did and the way that he did them, I learned to appreciate him in a different way, not just for being dad, but for being a man that was really trying to fight for family, fight for progress of family, fight for safety of family, fight for love. But just didn't, like I said, just didn't really know how to do that per se.
Right.
Because he never learned properly,
So I'm curious, because that is a huge, we kind of, the way you threw that out there, that sounds like that almost happens organically. That is a huge revelation, or a huge aha, to realize that maybe dad is hurting me because dad is hurting.
Yes. And at that point in time, it allowed me to, shift gears in my process and go, well, what am I going to do with this? Now I have a beginning of an understanding, and I want to understand more. What does this mean for me moving forward? And it started with me, personally thinking, okay, these things that I endured, I don't have to put off on other people. So let's break that cycle. I have the ability to change that, with a little better understanding. I have the ability to unburden myself from thoughts and emotions that have been weighing me down from the lack of understanding. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, but back to the cracks in the wall, though, right? Like, who's helping you understand that? Is that a God thing? Is that a
big guy? Yeah, okay. Without a doubt, it's a God thing.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think because that cycle is a vicious cycle. And the idea that we're talking to somebody now that broke that cycle.
Not broke, because it's a continuing process.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But you're in that and you're fighting that, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You're fighting that. And I'm just curious, can you look back? We talk about hinge moments all the time, Derick. Is there something in there where you noticed you changed? Like, you can actually look back and be like, you know what? In this moment, maybe you talk about cursing God and praying and not getting answers.
Or your perspective changes, right? Your perspective changes. Your vision becomes clearer, maybe. Because as you're talking about this, Derick, it sounds to me like the word revelatory comes to mind.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Yeah, you almost have to have it. You almost have to have new eyes to see this.
Right. Yeah.
You do, and you have to first acknowledge that transition has taken place in who you are as a person. Like, I want to change for the better. I want to change for others. I want to change for me. And I think it has to start with me, and that was the biggest thing for me. So that revelatory moment, I think, came when my, I can't isolate it really to one moment, because in different situations, there are different moments that spur those thought processes on. But I would think for the first time for me, it was when my maternal grandfather was passing, and that was my guy, and he had dementia, Alzheimer's dementia. He was 74 at the time, and I was.
What's his name?
George W. Giles, went by GW.
GW.
Yeah. But anyhow, we went to visit him in the last facility that he was in, Alzheimer's specialty care facility that he was in. And, he didn't recognize anyone or anything, still very lucid in speech, but not in understanding, comprehension. And right before we left that visit, which was the last for all of us, and there were a number of us there, I spent just a couple of minutes with him by myself. And he looked me square in the eye and said, "Take care of those babies." So I had already had kids, and he had met my oldest kids and remembered some of them, but they were all there. So he was recognizing faces. But clear as day, just he and I alone, that's what he told me. And I knew that wasn't a fluke. I knew that it wasn't luck, and that was probably the first time that I felt God talking directly to me. And I took heed of that. And, I had to take account of myself to start to make change in my life process, from that moment forward. And ever since then, it's been like one breath and one heartbeat at a time, with the goal being just to be a positive influence, as much of a positive influence as possible with anyone that I encounter in this life process.
I love that. And I think the word revelatory fits that whole thing really well, because in my mind, when we talk about revelation or revelatory experiences, I feel like those are ongoing, right? We may have an experience that might be the starting point for whatever that experience is. But I think if we do it right, those experiences are ongoing and they link themselves together, right? So if we're talking about, your relationship with your dad and having this experience with your grandfather and sort of how your perspective begins to shift, maybe begins to become clearer about some of the things that your father went through, and that opens your eyes to how you might need to change things in your own life and how you might address your father moving forward. I think that's a powerful process. And I like what you said earlier, Derick. You said, Mike, we referenced, hey, and you beat it, right? And you said, no, I'm in it. And I love that, because I think that
it is a process.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I'm living in that right now in this very second, but it is a part of what makes me who I am. And in order to continue to overcome any one element, you have to continue to put the work in, and that's not always easy. It's not always conscious. There's times when we slip and fall. I mean, we're human. But I think the more work you put in, the less you have to work at any one thing, because it's maintained, it's got its own little box. It's nice and safe and put away. That's just, it exists, but it's not relevant, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, in the work, I love how you said, I had to, after he says, take care of those babies, and you have that moment, and that's a powerful moment. I'm just thinking about it, right? And I'll be honest with you, Derick, the space between you and I felt different when you said his name.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like there's just something about that, something about honoring people, and something about saying, hey, he may not be with me, but he is with me.
Right.
And we say all the time, Tyler, right? Like God talks to us through people.
Absolutely.
And I don't know how, but he does, because he loves us, and he puts people in our path that maybe sometimes they're going to rattle our face mask, right?
Yeah,
maybe they're going to throw us up against the wall.
Right?
Yeah. But I love how you said in that moment, I knew I had to make some changes, and I took account of myself. And I think that that's so powerful, because it's not about, right? The natural man wants to change everyone else.
Right.
Yeah. But it's about when you have that moment and you might see, man, I could be something different. Right. But get where you are. Don't stay there. Right. That take account of yourself is like, take an inventory, take a moral inventory, 12 steps, right? That whole thing, like put it out there so that you don't stay there. But if you don't do that work, if you don't do that work, you're not moving forward, and you're begging everyone else around you to change. And that's not how God does it, right?
Yeah. Well, I love Derick, you said, it's work. It's work. And I love, I love that word work, because I think that, that's where the reward comes, right? When we're willing to do the work. And I guess I'm curious, and Mike, I want you to weigh in on this too, but what does that work look like? What does it look like to put in the work to deepen a relationship or to repair a relationship? Because look, I've been there, right? And I can tell I'm with you 100%. It's work. It's work that some days I think I'm winning and some days I've lost, and I just got to get up and brush myself off and do work. So what does that look like?
Well, I think first of all, we need to take away any negative connotations associated with the word work.
Absolutely. Yes.
Work doesn't have to be a bad thing.
No.
And for any situation that we're confronted with, dealing with, that work's going to vary. You gentlemen have children.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't parent one child the same way you can another necessarily, even though they're both your children.
Yeah.
They're individuals. It takes different work, to get your spouse to shift from your girlfriend to your fiance to your spouse. Takes work.
Took a lot of work on my part, man.
Same here. To maintain positive relationships with anyone, it takes work. So I think we should start to look at work a little differently.
Yeah.
And then have a greater appreciation for work, because I think the more I have the opportunity to work, the better my life is. That means I've got people around me, I've got things going on, I'm involved, and I try to be selective these days about the things that I work on. I try to prioritize as much as possible the things that I work on.
Preach, yeah. Right?
I love that.
So many times that taking account generates a list. And from that list, we want to attack all of it. And it's like, that's not wisdom. There's not order in that.
Right?
No,
yes.
The time we have here is finite, right? I mean,
most definitely.
Right. And so we've got to make sure that we're picking the right things to work on, or like you said, we're prioritizing what those things are.
Yeah.
I think it takes faith in the only thing that can change a man. Right. And that's the gospel of Jesus Christ, like true change. We're not talking about going to Barnes and Noble and grabbing a personal development book. Love those. Geek out about those. But true conversion, right? We're talking cucumber to pickle.
Right.
Right? Never the same again. There's only one that can do that.
And that takes work. Because you have to develop that relationship to be able to follow that guidance.
Yeah.
To initiate that change.
And it takes breaking, right? You gotta break a little. I mean, you gotta break your own wild heart.
A lot.
But you've got to have a vision too. Like I'm just thinking, you had in front of you this dad, right? And yeah, there were things, and his weaknesses impacted your life. But he wasn't done, right? Like, we're not done. Like, we're not finished products. And I think if we lose vision of what that finished product might be able to look like, and honestly, for me, that's trying to be like him. I'm trying to be like the Savior.
Well, maybe
Mike, imagine the work that takes.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're not done. You keep going.
Maybe there's a shift somewhere. Well, there's a shift somewhere in there, right? When we start to see people for what they really are and what their potential really is, as opposed to what the last negative interaction may have been.
And that takes work, right?
That's a ton of work.
Oh my goodness. It's forgiveness. It's all of these things. Yeah. Right. But it is, it's like that. I mean, really, when we say work, I'm just saying we're awake.
Mm-hmm.
We're awake in our life. Yeah. We're active in our life. We're taking action, and we're driving, and we're not reacting or drifting.
Living intentionally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whether it's like, hey, I'm going to be intentional. This person in my life maybe wronged me. I'm going to be intentional in believing who I know that person can be. And that means I'm going to forgive that little thing and we're good.
And like you said, Mike, that process that you just summed up in 10 seconds is work.
Lifelong.
Right? Like that's lifelong.
And I love how Derick said he was cresting with his dad because it is a wave.
Absolutely. And I think that it's important to understand that we can put in the work with the best of intentions. And sometimes that work doesn't pay off when we do it right there. Right. So the hard lesson for me to learn in that is that I got to go back to work, and I got to do it again and work at it some more.
It's not like we're cooking on TV, right? Where it's like an ingredient, and then
right.
Voila, here's the casserole, right?
Right.
It's like, it's going to
turn around and go voila, and the dog's there and the casserole goes all over the kitchen floor.
Right.
But Tyler, it's like you say all the time with people that we love, just remove the timetable.
Yeah.
Right. Do the work regardless. Love the process.
Yeah.
Right. Love this idea of like, man, I can't figure this out.
Yeah.
And be okay with that. Be like, man, I fell again. Yeah. And be okay with that, because isn't it freaking awesome that you can try again?
Yeah.
I love that.
Made. I love that too. So I'm curious, Derick. Mike mentions faith and the importance of faith in that work, in doing the work with the people that we love. I'm curious, in your life, what does faith look like for you in your life, and when does it become something that's an important and strong part of your life?
So, I grew up fairly involved in Black Southern Baptist Church, family and friends again, know everyone from the front of the room to the back of the room. But there was no real relationship there. I was baptized in that church, I think I was 11 years old. Again, no relationship. We went with primarily my mom, or I went with my grandfather, and that was more to just hang out with him than anything else, And then, there was a little teaching that was picked up along the way. Like, it's been a slow journey for me. My parents put us in private school, which at the time was Catholic school. That was diametrically opposed as far as processes and procedures to what I was used to. It was very.
You can't get any more different, right?
And I never understood why they were essentially talking about the same things, but didn't agree. The two groups between themselves didn't agree with each other. And so that created conflict in me. Like, why am I going to listen or follow either one of you as far as the groups go?
Yeah.
With the difficulties in life, again, there was a lot of cursing God, and that allowed me to step away, to run away, to turn away for a long time, and then, other events take place in life to where you're just begging and pleading for them on your hands and your knees, just tears flowing like never before, and thinking that this is the only answer. And then going from that to a point of wanting this to be the only answer, and knowing that this is the only answer, but I have to have more of a relationship, and interacting with a number of people, a number of great men, that I won't even try to count out by name right now. They supported that thought that, yes, you have to have that relationship. I know men that know the Bible front to back and don't have a relationship with God. And once I tried to start creating that relationship, I wanted to know more. I wanted to grow more. I wanted to show more. And that's just an ongoing process now.
Yeah. I love that. And again, sort of that word process comes back to play, right? I mean, you know, I think it made me think, you know, there's a quote that says both abundance and lack of abundance exist simultaneously in our lives as parallel realities. It's our conscious choice which secret garden we tend. We focus on what's missing from our lives, or are we grateful for the abundance? And, you know, I think it's, you know, as you said, you know, at times I turn my back, but then at times I'm on my hands and knees, you know, pleading for the help. And I think that those two things are part of that process.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like you can't
hold them both.
know, right? Unless you get to the point where you feel like I'm abandoned and now I need that.
Yes. Yes.
I think that's so interesting.
It makes me
I'm
think
at ground zero. I can't go any lower. There's got to be an answer to get me moving forward, to get me moving out of this space that I'm in right now.
Yeah.
Like, I know this is not the end.
Right.
You know, so what's the next step? And that's an interesting place to be in. You know, because I think, especially in this day and age, I think that too many people lose hope at that point in time because they have no faith.
Yeah.
And I believe that if you have faith, you always have hope.
Yeah.
So no matter what your bottom is, you know there's a way out.
Yeah.
There's a brighter day. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
Love that.
And it makes me think of Matthew 14, right? With Christ on the water. And Peter's like, I want to be with you. I want to do that. And he does it in the storm, right? The storm is
whipping,
blowing all around him, and he takes his eyes off the Savior and starts to fear the storm. And he starts to sink, and he's like, save me, and immediately, right? It wasn't like, well, hold on, Peter, you kind of forgot about, you kind of messed up. I think I'm going to let you sink a little bit here. It was immediately.
Yeah.
Right. And I think so many times you talk about this turning away from, running from, and then in the moment you need him and you turn and you're on your knees, he's not keeping score of the run.
Right. Like, I'll get back with you later. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
You're his child. He loves you. And he's like, I got you.
Yeah.
And I love too the idea that I'm in a pickle. Just show me the next step. Right. I know it. I didn't get into this overnight. I'm not getting out overnight.
And I think that was a big thing for me too, was like, you know, not hoping for that magician God, you know, just take it away.
Yeah.
Not take it away, but do me a favor and just hang out with me through this. You know, like, help me get through this. Like, how do I navigate this process?
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean, me going through this process? What is the purpose of it? You know, just hang out and let me rap at you a little bit, and, you know, maybe shoot me some advice here and there. And ever since I've been doing that, things have been so much better. Now, does that resolve problems in your life? You know, those ebbs and tides? No.
Yeah.
You know, but it definitely helps get through them, and through anything and everything, really. Yeah.
I tell people all the time, is it going to make life easy? No. Will it make life easier? Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah.
What I'm going to say this, and I hope I'm not calling down thunder, but I love, Derick, when you said seeing these two kind of warring faiths, or these diametrically opposed faith groups not even getting along, kind of created that conflict in you. As a parent, that's what I want my kids to experience. Just that conflict, just that wrestle, right? Contrast. Like, hey, this person thinks this way. Hey, this person thinks this way. And I I want them to experience that so that they will drop to their knees.
Right. That's the hope.
That's the hope, right?
Negative.
So that
People
they
like,
will.
You don't wish negative upon your kids. Well, I'm not wishing negative upon them. I'm wishing strength.
Yeah,
that's it. Right? I'm hoping for vision.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for growth.
I'm hoping for those things, and I know how he'll deliver them. He'll deliver them through challenge. He'll deliver them through conflict. He'll deliver them through adversity. I want the end.
Right.
Right.
That's
what
we want.
You're going to get what you ask for all of the time. I tell people you're going to get what you ask for, but you probably won't see it the way that you anticipated it.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah. And I think too, I love again, I'm gonna kind of glom onto that word process because you've used it a couple times, Derick, in different aspects of your life. And I think that I hope that when people listen to you, especially when you're talking about faith, sort of being at that point of anger or frustration of, turning your back and not letting that be the end of the journey, right? Understanding that moment is part of this bigger process that will get you to a better place, right? I think that sometimes you said it, Derick, there's sometimes people lose their faith because they're in the darkest of times, right? And it's around that corner that the light starts to come through.
And I can't agree more, because if you looked at that account in Matthew with Peter on the water,
right?
Jesus Christ came on the fourth watch,
right?
The last shift,
yeah,
right? Like sometimes, right? Moses is being chased and his feet are wet. Like, I got no other way out. And sometimes we're up against it when the answer comes. Tyler, we've talked about how so many people are tempted to give up right before the breakthrough.
Yeah.
They might be on the very line that is between failure and a crazy, wild success. And they don't even know they're on the line. And they're like, well, nothing here. Got to give up.
And I think we can say that the three of us can speak to that because we've all been there, right?
Absolutely.
We've been in that spot where we've thought this is it.
And we will be there again.
And we'll be there again. And it's those experiences that we've had, you talk about the ebbs and the flows, Derick, it's those experiences that when we're in the valley, that we hope we can look back and go, but I was up there, so I can get there again, And
it's not, but I was up there. It's like, okay, well, there's another one on the horizon, so let's just keep on trucking.
I'm just waiting for my set.
Waiting for the next
one.
Yeah,
exactly. That's right.
They come in. It just takes a minute, man.
It does.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how many times have you just been chilling out there just waiting?
Yep, that's it.
You're going,
Absolutely.
Before you know it, you're like, yeah.
Hey, I can totally relate as a boogie boarder. I can totally relate. Hey, Derick, someone may be listening to you right now that is in that no relationship space. They might be going through motions. They might be putting on shirts and ties and going to church on Sunday. Right? They may be raising a family and they feel like their prayers don't leave the ceiling. What would you say to that person, given what you've learned about faith and hope? Sorry to leave the script.
Wow. Probably just stand and know that whatever it is that's got you at the point you're at now, there is a way out of whatever it is if you seek it. Just stand, listen, and seek, I guess.
I love that. Listen.
I love
a way out, right? There's a way out.
There's always a way out.
I love that word seek. I think that's important. And I think that's great advice. I mean, sometimes there's this, and I'll speak from personal experience, right? You get to this point and you're like, that's it, right? I've exhausted all my opportunities. But if we're looking for that next thing, right? And that next thing, seeking it may just be a prayer of desperation.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think the person's right though, Tyler. I've exhausted all of my options.
That's it. Yeah.
There it is right there.
Because you and your little mortal pea brain, you may be like, sorry, Heavenly Father, I tried 2 things. It didn't work.
I'm done. Yeah.
Usually it's one. I did it. I tried that one.
I tried the one. I did the work. Now fix it. But I love
put
that.
in as much effort as we do to find the remote when we lose it.
Okay. On that note, though, when I think of seek as you're using it, I do want to go to that woman who lost a piece of silver, right? That parable that's taught. You'll tear the house apart.
Yeah.
Because it's a value, right? Like that's what we mean by seek. And I think that inherently we might be lazy on the seek muscle.
Absolutely.
We're not turning over too many rocks. We might give it a go. And then it's like, okay, I need help. And it's like,
The thing is, God doesn't ask a lot from us in that seeking. He basically lets you know that he's right here all of the time. All you have to do is turn to him.
Do it with him, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Speak with him.
That's it.
It's interesting because it's with my youngest daughter, it's like, I'll be like, all right, go get ready for soccer, and she goes up to her room and she comes out 30 seconds later and says, I can't find my cleats. They're gone. My cleats are gone. I'm like, well, did you look in the closet? I looked in the closet.
Swiper, no swiping.
Right. So it's gone. And then, with some experience, right. As we gain some experience in life, hopefully we begin to understand that, the thing that we need is going to be there, but we just have to continue to put in the effort to find it. Right. Because I've been in that position, like my 12-year-old where, I need help and I've asked one time and that help hasn't come. And I'm like, well, nobody cares. Right. I'm on my own. This is it. But as we mature, hopefully, and we have enough experiences, we get to that point where we begin to understand that, okay, let me ask again and let me see. And maybe not only let me ask again, but let me listen again. And maybe I'm not listening the right way because sometimes I'm projecting that answer into the listening. Right. So.
Well, I have a belief, and I share this professionally. I share this personally. It's Archimedes, the great ancient mathematician. Give me a lever and a fulcrum, and I can move the world, right? But that's actually not complete. It's a lever, a fulcrum, and footing to stand, right? And so, Derick, when you say stand, that hits me right in the heart, right? Because there are forces at play. And I can say this to hanging out with 3 dudes that I admire. The resistance. The force. The waves that are coming at you, that are beating at that footing, that are trying to get you moved from your place as a husband, as a father, as a man of God, as a person of influence. And what great counsel for 2021 for us to do everything we can to stand, right? To stand and not be moved, stand in holy places, right? My disciples will stand in holy places and not be moved. And that is our challenge.
Absolutely. We've got demons coming at us all of the time, slings and arrows. And I think it reverts back to what we were talking about earlier, and having that foundation. Like, where does your foundation lie? And if that foundation is built in faith, it's not going to be moved. And you need to stand in that to understand that, and you need to stand strong. And negative influence is always going to be there to try to weaken your stance.
He's trying to knock you. He's trying to knock your house down
all the time,
right? And great will be the fall thereof, right? If you're built on sand, it's going down.
Exactly.
Right. But if we have that built on the rock and that foundation is Jesus Christ, you're not moving.
You can't go wrong.
Right.
Hey, Derick, I'm curious. You've got 6 kids, ages 15 to 34, right? And they're in various stages of excitement in life, right?
Yeah.
Right.
The 34-year-old that sometimes is acting like the 15-year-old, and the 15-year-old wants to be 34.
I'm curious, Derick.
Sure.
What do you hope your kids are learning from your life and your journey?
That there are going to be ups and downs for everyone. You take the good and the bad from all of the influences that you have in this life process. You keep what works for you, throw the rest out, and be prepared to get knocked down and get back up.
Yeah.
And we're all going to be challenged at some point in this process with some hard decisions or, difficult, tough decisions, morally, ethically. Your values are going to be challenged. Your principles are going to be challenged. And how are you going to face these challenges as an individual with the person that you are, not caving into societal norms, ideas of other people, who are you and what are you about?
I love that idea. It almost, Mike, that I love that answer because it sort of reminds me of when we had a conversation with Peter Carlson and he talked about identity, right? And I love that idea of just
that script.
Yeah,
right?
Knowing who you are and knowing that you're part of something bigger. I mean, that's huge. I love that. I love that.
So how does a SoCal guy get up to Redding, California?
Oh my goodness! Now we're going to go to the meat and potatoes of the evening, huh?
Break it down for me. So you're there. We've talked a little bit about growing up, and we talked a little bit about that struggle, right? That home environment and the challenges that were there. I can tell your grandpa meant a ton to you, right?
Almost definitely.
So walk us through a little bit of that journey from boy to man.
It was kind of crazy in a lot of ways. Again, my parents provided the best that they could for us, and they did very well. After my dad left the service, he started working civil service. He was a computer analyst, so he was working on. We have 2 military bases at home. He was working at one of the military bases. My mom started working for the phone company shortly after we came back from his deployment in Germany. So that was their working careers, which provided for us a very comfortable middle-class lifestyle, but, things were never big for me. And that's how we were provided for, was with things. I would much rather have had people, but of course I couldn't connect to people, for various reasons. So I was 19 when my oldest son came around. That was interesting, shocking, stunning, amazing. First time that I thought that I had experienced a miracle in life, and having to try to take care of him, I was doing things that, legally I shouldn't have been doing. And continue that kind of lost existence for a while, for a good while, to the point to where one day there was a gentleman who was a local police officer at home, whom I had played football with at the junior college a couple years before. And I was crossing the street from a fast food place to my apartment, and the police car pulled up in front of me on the opposing sidewalk. And he hops out, and we had a brief conversation, and he made the suggestion to me that I might want to make some major changes in my process, because the authorities were just waiting to take their turn with me, incarcerating me. And he was basically giving me a heads up. And I had been having thoughts about needing to change things, wanting to change things, having things different for a while. And that kind of spurred the move to Reading in the end of 1996.
Wow. So was Reading, was there a job? Was there people? What ultimately, or was it just a new place to kind of start again?
My ex-mother-in-law at the time lived here.
Okay.
So that's what I knew of Reading when I came here.
I love the idea that, it's just interesting, right? Like, we got things that we know we need to change, and we all have that, right? And then, Mike, you said earlier, God talks to us through people. And here you are, this police officer kind of giving you a heads up.
But
like,
here,
hey,
but
you got to make some changes.
Can we
I
talk
love
too,
that.
though, Tyler? Can we talk too, though, that Derick's own words, he was living kind of a lost existence.
Yeah.
So again, that old model, lost existence, means not worthy to receive revelation.
That's exactly what I was going to say, right? It's
not
there,
true.
no matter
At
what.
that same time, I didn't
down.
have that personal relationship to even experience that.
Right.
So,
but something in that interaction, he reaches out to you and you hear it.
I think those are periods of what we call divine intervention.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. I totally agree with that.
Absolutely. So, but here's the thing I always tell kids that are leaving for college, and I'll tell it to you, and I'm curious to know your experience with this. Problems travel really well, right? Some kids will have problems here in high school, and they'll be like, man, Mr. Freeman, if I can just get to college,
just get away,
all my problems will go away. It's a change of scenery. And I'll just warn them, like, hey, those viruses, they travel really well.
Yeah. It's that everywhere I run, there I am, It's like
sure.
one of those deals.
So you get to Reading, okay, change of scenery, check. Different area code, check. Police aren't on you, check. How do you change?
Honestly, first you fall prey to the same viruses, same illnesses. And therein lies the battle,
The work.
Yeah,
absolutely. And you get to those forks in the road at varying times in life, I think. And with that particular battle, like, enough was enough, so you take the fork in the road that that is most beneficial for you at that moment in time. And that was just to do things differently.
Yeah.
And then you start to learn as you seek different, because you're like, I don't, what's different?
Yeah.
I have no idea. And again, I think God places people in your life to give you those bits of knowledge too along the way, or those experiences that allow you those epiphany moments, and you go, okay, well, now I'm getting it, and that guides you to the next fork in the road, and then it comes down to decision making.
Yeah, man, I just think it's interesting how, and I think it's totally appropriate how you started out kind of talking about, you used two words, Derick. You used process and journey a lot of times in our conversation. I just think it's interesting how the word journey is so appropriate, right? Because sometimes sometimes we're just wandering without a map, or so we think, right? And I love, that it's interesting because when we get a little down the road, we can look back and we can kind of see these moments that were miraculous that at the time we didn't consider miraculous, right?
Or didn't even acknowledge or whatever. Absolutely,
right? Like a small conversation with someone who gives us a little bit of advice, and we say, okay, thank you very much, and we move on. And then as we're down the road a ways, we can look back and go, I mean, holy cow, where would I have been had that person not said those things to me at that time in my life? That's exactly what I needed to hear.
But what are those moments of influence that change people's lives? They don't have to be grandiose. They don't have to be spectacular. They don't have to come from, any person of any particular position. I was always told that, like, we can learn something from everyone all the time, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
And it's what we do with that information that fuels our journeys, our individual journeys, our collective journeys, in the positive or in the negative. And like, we do have influence over it. God has given us the free will to do things the way that we so choose. But I think it's in the choosing that makes the difference.
And I would even link those two thoughts that you've shared. It's in the choosing who will seek, right? Like, who do you seek? You will find.
Yes.
If you're looking for him, you'll find him. If you're looking for trouble, like I tell my kids all the time, you can go to BYU and find trouble.
Absolutely.
Right? It's not about, it's about the heart. It's about what it is you're looking for. But Tyler, I just want to throw this out there. I think it's fascinating that Derick's letting us in on this background, because that's not the Derick I know. And that's what I love about life, and I love about the story, because the very thing that I would say Derick is great at, he wasn't at one time.
That's a beautiful thing, right? We look at you, Derick, and we go, man, Derick is this guy that's got this knowledge, but it was all of these experiences is what makes it that, right?
And so many times
it is for all of us. It's not the knowledge in the present, it's the experience that created it.
And so many times the kids want to be the man that knows. It's like, well, go to the man that knows, and you'll be interested to know how he came.
And look at the road he walked on.
Right, sit there and listen for a while. So, that was a big thing for me. I hope I don't take this too far off track, but my maternal grandfather, again, my guy, GW, he used to, after he retired, he belonged to this senior citizens garden. And it was basically he and a bunch of friends, the city had allocated this plot for gardening. And they kind of took it over, him and maybe 10 other guys. They had their individual plots, and they'd sit out there and have their brown bags and talk. And I hung out with my grandpa all the time. Oh my gosh, I so wish that at the time I had the foresight to have recorded these talks.
Oh,
But they were amazing. And I learned so much just from being around that. And we don't really do that anymore. We don't have those deep talks. We don't have those crazy, silly talks. And we should, because that's where we pick up on others' experiences.
Yeah.
But did you go, can I ask really quick about the application of that? So you're hanging out with G-Dub in the garden, listening to him and his friends talk. Man, I can only imagine, right? It's not like you ran out and applied that to your life the next day.
Right.
Right? That's a seed that kind of lands in there and then
it doesn't
life
fester, but it takes its time, and then I think you get exposure through that growth process at varying times, to where it becomes, adult and mature and fruitful, and you can pick from that and you can share with that, But yeah, it's not like, okay, well, I just heard this. Now I'm going to go home and change my life.
Right.
And then pretty soon, blink of an eye, you're the old man in the garden talking.
So that's kind of the stage I'm in right now. And it's really weird. And all it does is spur more thought, which is for me these days, that's great.
I love that idea of I can just picture, your grandfather in the garden talking with his friends and being able to hear that kind of thing. I just think that it's, those are the things,
wisdom,
right?
Dripping, right?
Yeah.
Dripping with wisdom.
And we don't understand that.
There was some very wise moments. There was a lot of
raucous moments as well.
Barbershop, senior garden,
barbershop outdoors. There you go.
But you know what? We find ourselves in the storm, and we can remember those moments of wisdom that can maybe start to take root a little bit, right? And here's the beautiful thing, right? If it was all sunshine, the plants wouldn't grow, right? We got to have the storms that get us the water.
Well, I think we've got wildfires all around, right? And we have some of these trees in the Sequoia National Forest, some of their pine cones only open with the heat of a fire.
Yeah.
Right. So like sometimes we have these things that are only going to unlock in life's adversities.
In those moments. Yeah.
Right. In those situations where it's like, whoa, what that thing that Grandpa would always say, pruning the roses, is starting to make a little sense right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Derick, I just want to point out, and to everyone listening, when you see somebody that is living in their strength, just know it might have been a weakness at one point. Right?
For sure.
And then to be in a position of my strength is now going to be an asset and God can use me in the lives of other people is a pretty rad concept.
I think so. Absolutely. I think that's when you can kind of bust your business button down open and you got the little superhero emblem underneath.
I got this.
I love that.
I got this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, honestly, Mike, just real quick, you mentioned that, through this conversation, you've kind of seen a different me. Well, I want you to know that one of the first episodes of this program, you did the bio yourself. You did your story. And when I heard that was a Mike Freeman that I didn't know. And I was so appreciative of you sharing that Mike Freeman with everyone. And that's part of what's allowed me to be sitting here with you gentlemen this evening. So thank you for doing you in so many ways. It's greatly appreciated. And Tyler, you're a part of this as well. And I've listened to so many guys and I try to get so many guys to listen. And I think that's really what it's all about. It's just sharing that life experience, that story, truly and deeply, without worry.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you give green light to everyone around you to do the same.
To do it as well. Absolutely.
And everyone starts looking back and is like, I've always wondered why that thing happened to me. Maybe it's because now I'm in a position where I can actually use that adversity to tell my story.
Sure. And it builds, safety or strength or security or hope in someone else,
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then that becomes the virus that we're all working to spur on.
Oh, can we talk about this a little bit? I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but there's this thing on TikTok right now called Devious Lick, and I'm not promoting it at all.
No, I get emails from my kids' schools constantly.
Yeah. It's got kids dismantling, defacing public property, stealing urinals, bathrooms are out of order. And it's like
popped up. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, could we do something else with TikTok? Like buy a homeless guy a sandwich, right? Or like, show some kind, like if that tool is so powerful to the destruction, could we harness it and do something? Can a Jonas Brothers or something start a challenge where maybe we make the world a better place?
Imagine
or is
what
it
that
just
would look like.
Path of least resistance, and that's where humanity's going?
It sort of reminds me, right? It's that, what was there was a story, right, of the guy that's in I think it was a Chick-fil-A drive-through, bought himself his food, and he bought the guy behind him their food. And it went on, right? It went on for hours. People just buying each other's food for the car behind them, right? Because their food was free. I'm buying the guy behind me.
Yeah, careful with that, because the time I did that, it was a van full of, it was like a tennis team or something.
Yeah,
it's like $70 later. Like, the freak just happened.
Yeah, you don't look. You buy it for the VW Bug, not for the VW bus. Yeah.
Right. Just take a quick look in the rearview mirror before you get all charitable.
Well, I think that there's that's the hope, though, right, Mike? You talk about this thing on TikTok and coming up with something different, and I think the reality is I think that we can come up with something different. And honestly, we don't need a vehicle like TikTok, although that would be amazing to have 2 million followers that are going to do exactly whatever dumb shenanigans you're doing. But I think if we just go out and do our best to live right, someone's going to take note. It's going to happen and I can tell you that because I took note of a lot of people in my life that did the right thing when the right thing probably wasn't the easiest thing to do. And I've got a list internally of those people. And I think sometimes when I'm in a spot where I think, yeah, this is impossible, I think of that list. And I go, well, you know what? Actually, I've seen this guy do it. And so I'm going to give it a shot. And I think that's what this is all about. And that list in my head, Derick Anderson's going to be on it, because at some point I'm going to be in a spot and I'm going to be like, look, this is what Derick Anderson talked about. And if he can do it, then I can surely give it a try. Right.
So can I play this game? And you've listened to enough podcasts, you can probably predict where I'm going to go, Derick, with this. Can you imagine your life if you didn't have that conversation with that police officer that day?
Yeah, I think that I can, because I have looked at it, and I don't see that there would have been any positive outcome had I not, like right at that time, made the decisions that I did.
Yeah, that's remarkable. And that's what it just brings this whole choose your own adventure to every aspect. Every day we make choices, right?
And Mike, I love how those two things linked up though in that story that you told Derick about the police officer, because you said that I was thinking that I needed to make some changes, right? That thought is sort of rattling around in your head, and then somebody comes over and verbalizes it, and then
validates it.
You're like, crap, I got to do something right. Like I got to do something different, man.
And I think the more often we do that in our daily process, we have fewer points where those decisions are have to be made on a much more grand scale, and that's that constant evaluation, that constant fixing, adjusting, changing, to stay away from the big bad wolf kind of things,
Yeah.
Hey, Derick, Tyler mentioned this list of folks that he has. Is there anybody here in this space that you would like to honor as you reflect back on the life that you've lived or are living?
Yeah, let's start with David Reuben Anderson Sr. That's my father, who just passed away June 12th of this year. All in all, from beginning to end, definitely appreciated and much loved. GW, my mom, Gwendolyn Faye, my brother, who's my junior, but happens to carry my dad's name. He's David Reuben Anderson Jr. Hell of a man, hell of a family man, a husband, a father. We got two beautiful sisters, Tanisha and Dante, my kids, from top to bottom, Jordan, Ryan, Taylor, Riley, Shayla, Grant, amazing, each one of them in their own right, my wife, Robin, my ex-wife, Amy, heck of a mom. Glad to be co-parenting with her, Dennis Shepard, Mike Drewy, Ian Drewy, the list goes on and on. I could sit here and think, and it would get greater and greater. So basically, to all of the people that influence my life and keep me pushing.
I love how those names just flow.
I do too. And I was just thinking,
that.
Mike, and as you were talking, Derick, I was just thinking, man, I hope people that listen to this sit down as they're hearing you and pull out a piece of paper and just start writing names down. Just start writing names, because we talked about this in the pre-show call. It takes a village, right? We say that about our kids, right? It takes a village to raise our kids. Well, I'm convinced it takes a village to help us as people get to where we need to be. And man, that list as you were just rattling them off, I'm just thinking, gosh, I'm just so grateful for people in our lives, right? That come in and have an impact.
Sure. And are willing to get down and dirty with you too, because, some of the people that I mentioned, and I don't want to leave anyone out. Unfortunately, I have, but, you don't want to, we'd be here all night.
It's like an Emmy. It's like an Emmy speech.
Right. You've got to have those folks on your team that are willing to get down and dirty, and that when you're at your ugliest, they're right there with you and just supporting you and letting you know that whatever it takes, like, we're going to ride this out together, and being that same person for other people.
Yeah, I love that.
Hey, so as it just so happens, we have our pre-show call. I'm hanging out in a meeting today, and this quote from the great Roman philosopher Seneca comes up on a slide. It says, he who would do great things should not attempt them all alone. Right? And I immediately thought of this conversation, right? Of this association. You're not going to get where you want to get alone.
Yeah.
Not going to happen. We talked about that infusion of expertise. Somebody knows something that you don't, that can help you.
Well, I love that throughout my day, right? Any given day, I have the words of people like Derick Anderson and Sergio Carzoli or a Nick Anderson, or you name the person of all these different conversations. And I think that's what life is, right? That's what it should be, is that we are,
Tyler, it feels like I'm just a big old subway wall.
Yeah,
and Derick Anderson just came by with a can of spray paint and tagged some wisdom.
Yeah. I mean,
I can do that too a little bit still, I think.
I love that. But in the end, think about how rich that's going to look.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. At the end of your life, someone comes by and does a little,
Yeah.
Like, what is your tapestry going to look like?
Tapestry.
Yeah.
What is your portrait going to look like?
And I want people to see me and see the signature of Derick Anderson. Do you know what I mean? Like, I
Absolutely.
want that. I want that. I want people to see me and say, oh, that's Mike Freeman right there. And that's, and just list the people, because that's what, we talk about this all the time, but, I am the people that I've surrounded myself with.
Yeah. We are our experiences. We are the people that, like we tell our kids, you are the company that you keep.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's, I think, even more relevant for us, because, you go through phases in life, and as you have your various learning phases, and of course that happens all through life. But, in your early years, it's learning. And then you get to a point to where you become more of a teacher, And if you don't have those experiences, if you don't have that wealth of input of knowledge, your teaching tool belt is kind of like, and you're not
Can't
really
get what you don't have, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
You become like a one-trick pony.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, here comes Dad again. He's going to tell me.
Tell me that one story. He's been beating that one for a long time, man.
He's ridden that one into the ground.
That's right.
For sure.
Derick, I'm curious, what gives you hope these days?
Faith. It's just that simple for me. Because without that, there's nothing else for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
You've connected those two thoughts earlier tonight, right?
Yeah,
if
that's right.
You have faith, you will have hope.
Without a doubt.
You'll have hope for a better you. You'll have hope for a better world. You'll have hope for something after this life, right? You won't look at things myopically as like, oh my goodness, this thing that I'm in is just the end all be all and it's never going to get better. With faith, all of those things are put in proper perspective.
And anything is possible, anything is possible through faith.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, we talked about these people that come in your life at just the right time, and almost that conductor, right? And life is a stage, and the players are coming into your life and giving you these moments. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you met Robin?
Ooh, that's a heavy one. So I met Robin actually a little over 20 years ago. I was working at a nightclub that formerly existed here in town, and she was a patron, and that's how we initially met. Had a relationship at the time that shouldn't have happened, because I was married at the time. So I stepped outside of my marriage. And then, of course, the relationship between Robin and I didn't last. Moved on. Then we'll jump to 20 years later, 18 years later. We were both living separate lives at the time, had varying experiences in the past 15, 17 years. And then I was coming out of a divorce, and I was at a forum at church, and the topic was, the title of the forum was One Flesh. It was a One Flesh conference, and that was basically developing that personal relationship with God. That was what the primary topic of the conference was. And so I was standing in the back of the main space prior to the conference talking to some folks. A couple of people walked in that I had known before from years past, but weren't members of our church. And so we started talking, and these folks, we had all actually happened to be roommates years ago. Robin walks in to meet up with them. They're all transferring from another church that they were having issues with, I guess, at the time. And so we start talking, and she walks in, and if looks could kill, I would have been dead on the spot. She was not too happy to see me. So we leave the conference and she reached out to me via Facebook, I believe it was, and sent me a message saying that, she wanted to talk. She needed to get some things off of her chest, and wanted to clear up some muddy water. And I was, my response to her was, no need for that. Wish her the best, move on with your life, kind of thing. And she was okay with that. She's like, well, I tried, thanks, good luck to you. And immediately after that, I felt God tell me, what if it's not about you? And so I got back to her and we got together and talked, and the conversation really wasn't about me. She was going through a process of evaluation and attempt at healing in her own space, and felt the need to get a hold of me to apologize for our past relationship, the effect that it had on, my family. And I told her, I said, that was me. I was the married man, that wasn't you that created that catastrophe for those people, for that situation. Like, that was my responsibility. I had to take ownership of that, which I had before, but not with her. But anyhow, we ended up spending a bulk of the day talking, trying to clear up history. And then that led to some more communicating and trying to clear that water. And then the warm fuzzies popped up again. And honestly, we were both simultaneously asking God to take this individual out of my life. Like, if this is not meant to be, like, let's not waste any time with just playing around, And, both being 20 years older and, thank God, much wiser, we addressed those issues personally, and then we had to address some hardcore history issues too. I had to address this issue with my ex-wife, who I now have a pretty solid relationship with, as far as co-parenting our son. And I'm not going to do anything to jeopardize that, to disrespect that. Because we put in too much work for me to dishonor that. And of course, I have an understanding now that I didn't 20 years ago, and thank God for that, So we got through all that, talking to kids, and I proposed a year later. We got married a year ago, the 19th.
Wow. That is awesome.
Well, as a companion question to that journey, is there anything that you're holding in your hand as a truth right now that you learned the hard way?
Wow, that's an interesting question. Because I've learned so many things the hard way.
Your hands are full.
My hands are, they're not full. Because so much of it was negative, and I've allowed myself to get shed of that, but learning the hard way, that there are ups and downs in life for everyone, and you either face them or you run from them, and it's a lot better off to face them.
I love that, and I think that lesson of facing things is evident in the conversation that we've had tonight, right? In that journey that we've had tonight. It's hard. It's hard to believe that that we've traveled this far together tonight, right? And here we are, kind of 2 hours. Can you believe that? 2 hours into a conversation. I'm grateful for that lesson though, Derick, of facing things head on, because that I think that's there's some power in that, obviously, right? Because we're attacking that. But I think that if we, I haven't been great at that. So we talked about this before, Mike, like there's these opportunities where things come up and we shrink sometimes from it, and we kind of turn from it. And I love the idea that, look, things are going to come and the storms are going to come at us. And if we're willing to kind of take it head on and
well, full circle with your cracks in the wall, right?
Right. I think that there's some power there. So I love that. I love that thought. So,
no matter how fast, how far you try to run from your issues or your problems, you stop and you're gasping for air and you're sweating like no one's business. You turn around and they're still right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So instead of starting that journey of running,
of a retreat,
just stand and fight, and know that, like, you have to know where your strength comes from, where your ability comes from in that fight.
Well, and early on in this conversation, we talked about that we're not alone, right? That there's a power greater than us. There's that is with us. And then, to compound that, we can think about all of the experiences that we've had or people in our lives that have poured into us that give us some increased level of ability to face the things that we're faced with, right? Like you gave us a pretty dang good list, Derick, starting with your dad and GW and your kids and Amy and Robin and all of these people. I think that there's some real power there that will increase our ability to face things head on when we realize the army that has been with us the whole time.
And can you imagine, right? With that eye of faith, can you imagine G-Dub up there saying, come on.
Yep.
Right? Take care of those babies, right? Come on, turn.
And that's what it's about too, is like trying to honor the people that have fed into you in a positive way. Like, don't let their work be for naught.
Do something with it, right? Yeah.
Do something with it. Yeah, for sure.
So Derick, can I ask this question? Because so my story, I didn't never meet my dad, right? So I'm doing this dad thing, trying to grab lessons where I can from men like you in my life. And I'm just wondering what losing your dad has done to you as a dad.
Wow. It's still new, and I'm still going through my grieving process with that.
Yeah.
And that's very complicated for me right now, just the process, emotions, lack of emotions, all that. But as far as my interactions with my kids, like, don't let any time go to waste. Be as involved as possible. Be as present as possible. Because there are no guarantees in this life trip. One breath, one heartbeat at a time, and who knows when it's going to be the last set for any one of us. So just take advantage of the time that we're given and just be present.
Yeah, that's a huge lesson. That's a hard one, right? We justify some things away because life's busy.
And I got tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow's there, and tomorrow is promised to no man, right? And
absolutely not, right?
But I love that. That's sage advice, to be present. It's as I said earlier, Derick, it's hard to believe that we've been at this for a couple hours tonight.
Tyler, it's hard to believe that you feel the way you do about this man, and he has spent about 2 hours and 15 minutes in your life.
2 hours and
riddle me that, right?
Yeah,
riddle me that.
2 hours and 15 minutes has been some very important time for me. I mean, that's been
There's something awesome about this. Yeah, it's cool.
And I love this. Derick, we end every show with the same question, and I'm excited to ask you this question, and I want you to know that you belong on this podcast, my friend, and
thank you.
I'm just grateful for the life you've lived and that you're living. So, Derick, in the spirit of the show, I ask you the same question we've asked all our guests. What does it mean to you to be considered the richest man in town?
I get to wake up every day and have a new shot at being the best me that I can be.
A new shot. Hamilton, right? I'm not gonna throw away my shot.
Hey, you found a way to bring it to Hamilton, Mike. There you go. I love that answer. I'm not gonna waste
my shot.
I love that answer, though. You
get a new opportunity to apply all of the things that we've talked about, to this life process and try to make a difference. And to me, that's at this stage of the game, for me, it's nothing less than a privilege.
I love that answer, because there are going to be days where we lay down at night and we think it was not my best effort today. It didn't go like I wanted it to go, but tomorrow is a new shot, right? And I'm going to get up and I'm going to be better, and I'm going to be committed on a different level to be the best version of me. I'm going to fail,
but I'm going to fail less. Or I'm going to fail better. I'm going to fail stronger.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to fall forward, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the key verb there, and that's what we beg our listeners to do, right? Apply. Take it, right? It's like Groundhog's Day, right? What if today's failures actually are setting you up tomorrow if you just applied the lesson?
Well, that's
and woke
it,
up
right?
and did it differently. Right. But some of us, like, we wake up, it's like, oh, there's a pit in the road. Oh, there's a hole. Oh, and I'm stumbling over the same thing I stumbled over yesterday because I'm not applying what life is teaching me.
Yeah.
Right. I love that, Derick. I love it.
I do too.
Let's do another 2 hours. We got to go to bed. Seriously. Here's the problem, right? I mean, Thursday nights, I'm gonna get off with Derick Anderson. I'm gonna run out there, and Kelly's like ready for bed, and I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, let's get to work.
I'm wholehearted, vigorous. Like, I want to live some life right now. Love it.
I'm glad you guys allowed me to be a part of this, and to be a part of that experience. I seem to pick that up from both of you at some point along the way in following this podcast. That like it changes you as individuals on varying levels. And I know that this experience has changed me, and I'm looking forward to utilizing, this interaction tonight in my life.
You know what I'm looking forward to, Derick? Your episode will drop on a Monday night at 6. I'm looking forward to the texts and emails I get Tuesday morning.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
Because what we feel here, they're going to feel all over the world, brother. They're going to feel it. They're going to feel it in Ireland. They're going to feel it in Germany and, 56 other countries. So I love you for your show up, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate the offer and the invitation again.
We're not done either. We're not done.
It's been an absolute blast, man. I am, I'm grateful for the opportunity to get to know you a little bit, Derick, and I look forward to getting to know you more as time goes on, because this certainly is not the last interaction that we'll have. And that's the great thing about this, right? And I can meet someone that lives at the top of the state, and we've talked for 2 hours, and And I feel like I've known you my whole life, and I'm looking forward to deepening that relationship. So thanks for being you, my friend.
Hey,
awesome.
Tyler Gould, the next time you get up here,
thank you.
I'm going to connect you with Derick Anderson. We're going to go get some pizza.
If you didn't, I'd be very upset. So,
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Sounds
we'll
great.
do like a richest men in town tour stop.
I love it.
There you go.
I love it. Well, Derick, have a good night. Tell your family thank you for sacrificing their time with you tonight so you could be with us. We appreciate you, and I know our listeners are going to appreciate your words tonight. So thanks a ton.
Appreciate you, gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity.
Hey, do work and get those crutches out of your life, right? Get stronger.
Right?
Get stronger.
Get dancing again.
That's right. Have a good night, Derick. We appreciate you.
You too.
Good idea, Ernie. A toast to my big brother George, the richest man in town.